Story 1. I was feeling really down and planned to do something unwise, but I was in bed when my cat came and lay on my chest. I didn't want to disturb her, and I slowly became tired and sleepy, so I gave up and slept. Story 2. I was attempting to access a restricted outdoor area near a dam to jump into the water and die. A stranger saw me trying to hop the fence and called the police on me for trespassing. I was in the middle of a psychotic break, and the idea of talking to the police frightened me, so I ran home. They could not have known what was happening, but I easily could have died if they had not intervened, and no one would have known I had even left my house. I recovered and have been stable for a few years now. I am forever in their debt. Story 3. A friend once told me, "Do not make a permanent decision because of temporary pain." That stuck with me. I held on, and eventually life gave me moments I am glad I did not miss. Story 4. Understanding that the only person who would always be there for me was myself, I realized I needed to start loving and improving my relationship with myself. Story 5. Every Saturday, I go to my parents' house to have dinner. My niece and nephew, who are 6 and 7 years old, both come running to me, hug me, and tell me how happy they are that I am there. I cannot disappoint them. Story 6. Realizing that if I die one day anyway, I'll be wasting any possibility of experiencing tasty food again. So yeah, no need to rush the inevitable. But I did accept death though. Story 7. Woke up, realized I had failed, and since I did not have enough medication for a second attempt, I needed to do something else. I did not like any of those options. I kept putting one foot in front of the other and taking the next breath until it became easier. Later, I received some diagnoses that made sense of how awful I had been feeling. Story 8. I used to work downhill from where I lived. It wasn't far, an 8-minute bike ride if I took my time. Along the route was a road with a steep slope that turned right at the bottom, with trees and bushes past the road. If you didn't brake or turn, you would crash right into the thorny blackberry bushes and roll farther down. If you didn't snap your neck or break anything from crashing into the ground or hitting a tree, the scrapes and scratches would open wounds that could potentially cause fatal bleeding if no one found you within the hour. Each day I went to work, I went barreling down that hill. Each day I thought about what would happen if I didn't grab the brakes or turn. Each day I thought about how easy it would be to just not grab on and let myself crash into the bushes to see what would end up harming me. The first few times I grabbed on and turned, but I didn't think to do it. It was just my innate reaction. If my reactions were telling me to live, then that had to mean something. My subconscious decided I had reasons to keep living, so it didn't matter if I saw them or not. The reasons were there. Story 9. It was 2012, and my mental health was at its lowest point. I had reached the point of breaking down at my job and confessing how desperately suicidal I was. Unfortunately, the person I confided in was my manager, and his response was basically, yes, that's very sad, but can you pull yourself together because you're upsetting the customers? Okay, good talk. I had a plan in place to end things but had not fully committed yet. Then, and I know how foolish this sounds, I watched the Avengers movie, and it became a strong autistic hyperfixation for me. Engaging in the fandom gave me something to live for. I made a deal with myself that I would hold on long enough to see the sequel because these characters meant something to me, and I wanted to see what happened to them. In those few short years waiting for the sequel to release, I got a therapist, left my terrible job, received my autism diagnosis which helped me understand myself and not feel broken anymore, started antidepressants that actually worked for me, and met the woman who would become the love of my life. She came with me to the cinema to see Age of Ultron, and it was surreal to be sitting there with my popcorn thinking about how this moment was what had kept me going back then. Now that it was here, it did not even matter because I had so much more to live for. I am so glad it worked out that way because I ended up hating the movie. Story 10. Most of the time, it is pure luck, being found on time or the body doing its job of self-preservation, such as waking up after a 30-hour sleep following an overdose. Other times, it is pure fear, like finally phoning an ambulance, which is probably self-preservation again. Also, realizing it is a tremendous challenge to end it all. I took over 100 high-strength painkillers and many antidepressants and survived. What is that all about? Story 11. Knowing when I get to the place before or past this, I am just gonna wonder why I thought this place was it. It is just right now. Story 12. My imagination is very vivid. As a teenager, I would get flashes of my parents discovering my body. As an adult, I still have these thoughts, along with images of my poor dogs roaming around, not understanding what is happening. I don't know how long I would lie there until they realized I was not waking up, until my parents decided to knock on the door and find me. I live alone. I will stop now because even writing this has made me cry. I don't know how I am going to push through life when I have nobody left. Story 13. People threw my childhood teddy bear into a dumpster and read my journal notes from my teenage years. Yes, I kept some of them. Story 14. My dog could tell I was upset. But he would be confused if I left his life suddenly, so on Christmas Eve a few years ago, I made a promise to him to stick around. He is the best boy in the world and does not deserve to be sad. Story 15. The popular friend group in my class saw my scars and told their group. They gave me a 2-hour talk at school. You may ask how the teachers did not stop us from talking. We had 2 free lessons in a row, and honestly, I felt like it was God's plan. I am now sober for 823 days. Story 16. I thought that if I was going to end my life soon, somehow, I could at least get my favorite food before I go and take a hike on a nearby trail that meant a lot to me. I stopped to admire the leaves and the birds. By the end of the hike, I was incredibly sad realizing how much I would miss all the little innocent things nobody stops to appreciate. My favorite snack, the way the clouds looked. I was no longer in a rush to end my life. I decided to take my time weighing my options, still heavily depressed. But with time, I climbed out of that dark hole. I went home to my cat, who trusts no one but me. How could I leave her? Let alone all the past, present, and future potential friends and family. I still have suicidal thoughts, but I am stronger than I was, and I know how to take care of myself when I am weak. Story 17. Well, I kind of love my cat, maybe. Either that or I am so selfish that I don't want to seem like a cruel person for not caring about a life I am responsible for. Secondly, I haven't really researched how to do it and all that. Currently, I do have a few social ties that need to be severed or starved to minimize impact. I have set a date, and until then, I have to solve those problems and then I am free. Plus, there is a chance that life might get better, but I doubt it. You never know. Currently, I am eroding my relationships by being a negative presence. I think the cat might pose the biggest challenge. Even though she is cute, she misbehaves and will pee on things you don't want her to pee on, plus the routine floor peeing a couple of times a week. I am cleaning those with no problem, but I doubt it's easy to find someone else to tolerate that. Other than that, I feel like I am already dead, very detached from this world, as if I am watching everything through glass. Even right now, a weird experience. I can think of 0 things I want anymore, and it won't matter. I am too far gone and insignificant. It just makes sense. Those statistics, those are real people I realized, like you and me. I think I belong there. Story 18. I had it in my head. My friend called me and told me he was about to be attacked. I said I am on the way. Story 19. The mandatory bouts of 72-hour observation in the white room with the non-slip socks tend to help. Silver lining. Their grilled cheese is quite good. Story 20. Too busy trying to save it just to throw it away. People who care about marriage, family, and their children could learn important, tangible life lessons from my mistakes. Story 21. The Reaper can have me when he has me. I am not a coward. I am wasted potential if I die now. I am smart enough to make my own cafe. That is my dream. Story 22. A police officer took me out of my car while I was attempting to leave. I was not charged with anything, but he broke into my car, pulled me out, threw me down on the ground face first onto rocks, restrained me, handcuffed me, put me in the back of his car, and took me to the hospital. Thankfully, it was the hospital and not jail. Story 23. I thought to myself, have I met all the friends I will make in this lifetime yet? I also thought about good experiences I might miss out on. Story 24. A few years ago, I was watching a television show that, in my younger brain, seemed never-ending, mainly because it had 12 seasons, and I had never seen anything like that before. I decided I couldn't stop until I watched the last episode, which continued until its 15th season. By then, I had stopped watching as much as I had started to grow up. I have now rewatched the 14 seasons multiple times, but I can never bring myself to complete the show. So, thanks Supernatural, I guess. Story 25. Knowing I am the only one capable of supporting my family. If I died, they would blame each other and possibly hurt each other. Spite, just to see what will happen next month or next year. Some inner part of me refuses to give up. The thought that I would be taking my future partner's love away before we even met. Story 26. Banal interest in what will happen next. Will everything get much worse? Or will something good happen? Story 27. The fear of a violation of my privacy, especially if I died an unnatural death, is that my phone and my diary would be exposed. Story 28. I think about the fact that after everything that is happening to me, I feel that something good awaits me in the future. Story 29. I found a hobby to obsess over. I literally started learning guitar and put everything I had into it. I do not actually play anymore, but it sure got me through a tough time when I was a teenager. Story 30. I know people are probably going to laugh at me for saying this, but I have an online girlfriend who gave me motivation to live. She talked to me when I had nothing and comforted me when I was at my lowest point in life. You can call me a shut-in or an online dater, but I do not care because that girl is the reason I am alive and well. She lives about 12 hours away from me, and I plan on visiting her as soon as I finish my college education. Story 31. I think about it from time to time. Honestly, the thought of leaving that scar on my parents and spouse is what keeps me from it. I love them too much. Story 32. I know my best friend would never forgive themselves. I would rather suffer through the pain than transfer it to them. Story 33. Going to prison was terrible, but it helped me get clean and mature. Now, I am almost 3 years clean and loving life. Story 34. My family. I am an only child, so there would be no one left to care for my parents. They would never get over it either, so I decided it would be too selfish to do that. Story 35. Told myself to never give up on a bad day. If I was going to do it, it would be when I had everything that should make me happy, when I had the best people around me, and when I was having good days. If I still felt like it then, I would do it. It sounds silly, but it motivated me to keep trying to put my life together. By the time I did, I didn't feel like doing it anymore. I also told myself that it might stop the pain, the hurt, and the difficulties, but it would also stop any chance I had of smiling again, feeling joy, happiness, and genuine laughter. That's all I really wanted, to be happy. Story 36. I knew I was just experiencing a depressive episode because I have been in better moods before. Simply put. Story 37. The thought of my sister-in-law telling my toddler nephews why their aunt would not be able to visit them anymore. Now life is good. I'm so glad I stayed. Story 38. It felt wrong. I did not want to die. I wanted the mental pain to stop post-traumatic stress disorder. I told my then love, who brought me straight to the psychiatric hospital emergency room. After I was interviewed, they sent me to an open psychiatric hospital for treatment. 6 months later, after intensive daily therapy, I was discharged with a clean bill of health and was ready to live again. Story 39. I just thought of my family and how they depend on me. As a younger brother, my dad is half paralyzed and my mom is in another country working hard. My brothers and sisters have their own families now. Whenever I feel like giving up, I always think, would this make a difference? Would we still struggle if there was one less mouth to feed? Would they mourn my death? Story 40. A friend sent his wedding invitation. Shortly after that, the pandemic started. At that time, I had nothing other than my family. When the world seemingly stopped and reset to zero, it made me rethink starting again. Story 41. I promised myself I would not commit suicide until I learned to lucid dream. It just seems like something too fun to miss without trying. Story 42. I would never think of ending my life. I am a devout Muslim, a servant of God. My body does not belong to me. It belongs to God. God created my body, therefore He owns it. I do not have the right to end my life. Only God has that right. We are all servants of God. Yes, even you are a servant of God. It does not matter what your religion is. You are still a servant of God whether you like it or not. Story 43. After 2 failed attempts, I figured out a way where things probably wouldn't go wrong and frustrate me to the point of giving up. Then, as I went to tie the sheet, my dog walked in and looked at me with his pitiful eyes. I couldn't do it. Story 44. I still struggle with depression, but I think about how I was contemplating ending my life about 10 years ago and how much I would have missed out on. The amazing people I have met, the great music I have experienced, and the places I have traveled. At the time, I did not believe anything good would ever happen. My life is far from perfect now, but I know there will still be good times ahead. Story 45. I thought of my parents and the people who love me, and that it is not fair to them to grieve and be sad just because I could not hold it together. Story 46. Seeing depression as the cold, harsh, difficult mental illness that it is. Kill myself? Why don't you kill me yourself, bastard? Forget you. Not saying that it isn't a serious struggle at all. I still to this day struggle with it, but I live out of spite now. Story 47. My mother already lost her oldest son this year. She would die if she experienced another heartbreak. I would also be worried about my other brother. We are all we have now. Even though I have been struggling for years, it would be selfish of me. Story 48. Those who love me did not allow it. Years of constant effort, time, and money every day until I could be better. Story 49. I moved several boxes and items in my garage so I could park my car inside and start it. My car did not fit inside, though. It makes me laugh today. Story 50. A mixture of being more honest with everyone about my feelings, starting therapy, taking antidepressant medication, and standing firm when things upset me. Story 51. My girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, walked in on me choking on my own vomit after I tried to down a full bottle of hydrocodone. I realized in my moment of dying that I did not want to die. I just wanted the pain to stop for once. Story 52. Just deciding to cut off my family when I graduate college instead of taking the easy way out and giving things a second thought. Story 53. My daughter. There is a saying on Facebook Reels that a parent is alive because of their child. Welcome to me. It is very difficult that I cannot leave because I love her so much. Story 54. I was crying so much and so exhausted that when I was about to text the suicide hotline, I fell asleep instead. I woke up the next morning and told my mom. She took the day off work to take me by the lake and to lunch, and it lifted my spirits enough to keep me going. Story 55. A couple of joggers were running past. I had lost my father to a heart attack a few months earlier and was just numb. I hadn't felt anything since and was in a dark place. I had taken a week off work to play some poker tournaments and was doing pretty well, so I took a day off to rest. I spent most of the day wandering around nearby shops and had a few drinks. I walked over a footbridge that crossed a dual carriageway and had an overwhelming urge to jump into the oncoming traffic. I got as far as grabbing the rail when 2 joggers started to approach, which startled me. I let go of the rail, walked back to my hotel room, and locked myself in for the night. I have had a few other close calls since then, but that was the closest I have ever come. Story 56. My mother. When she passes, I will need to find another reason to stay here during difficult times. I am quite stressed about that, actually. Story 57. My younger sister. Looking at her when she was just 8 years old changed my mind, thinking she was going to be all alone without anyone as we come from a broken home. Story 58. This sounds cliché, but going to the gym and returning to school helps me get out of my room even if it is lonely. Story 59. My children. I could not bear the thought of causing that much pain to them. I have lost a parent and understand just how terrible it is. In addition, I realized that the reason I hated myself was how much I allowed my soon-to-be ex-wife to walk over me in attempts to make her happy. It did not work. Once I started prioritizing my own peace of mind and well-being, any thoughts of self-harm disappeared. Story 60. Mostly, I told myself that if I killed myself, those who hated me would likely celebrate, and I would become that high school tale of a guy who killed himself. So instead, I decided to keep living just so they would have to see my face each day and later know I was still alive, kicking, and doing well despite their opinions about me. Funny though, I am sure many of them likely do not remember me or simply do not care what happened to me after high school anyway. But that kept me away from a noose. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.